good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Stick With It. We are really excited to have Jen on today, and we were actually just talking about the fact that you are moving across country right now. So you squeezed us in, and I'm very, very grateful for that. So thank you.
I'm happy for the distraction. I need a break from the madness. So this will be good for me.
Yeah. So where are you moving?
I'm moving. I currently live in New Orleans, and we are moving to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh,
nice.
That's quite a move.
Quite a move. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where we're originally from. So we're going back home.
I noticed the LSU, so I wasn't sure if something.
Yeah. My husband went through surgical residency at LSU.
Oh, cool. I've heard that's
med school there.
A fantastic med school. That's what I've heard anyway. So
yeah, it's a really good med school. So
I just moved myself, so I'm all very familiar and can sympathize with the whole process. Not that far. I moved like 30 minutes, so I'm not like put everything in a truck and have to move it at once. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm just over it. And I'm like, it's all gonna work out. Everything's gonna get where it needs to go, and
anything that you forget is replaceable. As long as you got your little fur baby and your husband, everything will be fine.
And my supplies.
Your supplies. Yeah. Absolutely.
Kind of goes with the name of our show, Stick With It. You just gotta go through and deal with what you're doing, right?
Yep. That's pretty much how I live my life, is just go with the flow.
Yes. Mary and I talk about that all the time. I feel like that's such a big aspect of resiliency too, is like being open to things not always going out the way you planned. So that's super important as well. Well, before I get further into your story and we talk about some other things, I guess let's check our blood sugar really quick. If you don't have you got your Genteel. Perfect.
I got it. I got my pump peels on it.
Nice. I have my little pump peels too.
I was going to say Mitra has one on hers as well. I'm the only one that's missing out.
I know. I need to make sure we get you some next time you're in the office.
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll just call Scott up and be like, hey, Scott.
Exactly. All right.
I just corrected a low a little bit ago, so hopefully
good timing to check, I suppose.
We good. 129.
Nice. 109.
I'm waiting for mine. 136.
There we go. We all good.
Yeah, I just ate a scone, so I'm surprised.
Perfect. Even better.
Exactly.
So usually I take this time to, ask some questions, but because I feel like our relationship is still so new and I haven't really had the chance to get to know you and really ask these deeper questions, I guess how would you say you fell into sharing your life and about diabetes online?
So I guess I'll start with how I became diabetic in like the most brief way possible, because it's a long story. I actually had my pancreas surgically removed at the beginning of 2017. So it's been a little over 4 years. I had chronic pancreatitis that was hereditary, caused by some genetic mutations, and it was getting really bad. So they decided the best course of action was just to remove my pancreas. And I did not have diabetes before this surgery. So the surgery is what caused me to be diabetic. And I started following some type 1 accounts on my personal Instagram just to, my type of diabetes is considered type 3C. And it is a lot like type 1 in that I'm insulin dependent and I use a Dexcom and an Omnipod. So, I can relate to a lot of type 1s. So I started following some accounts, and I was like, wow, I really like this community. I think I want to, dive in, I guess. And I had never seen any other accounts with type 3C. And I'm like, I need to kind of put myself out there, and maybe I'll be able to find others who have similar stories. And, also people can probably learn a little bit from what I've been through, because not a lot of people talk about type 3C. So
yeah.
I wanted to be a resource for others looking to learn about it.
Absolutely. Well, you've definitely been a source of, knowledge for me. Before I joined the Genteel team, I didn't know about 3C diabetes. And as someone who's, scrolling on Instagram and in the diabetes space, I also don't see very many other 3C accounts. I'm seeing it a little bit more often.
Yeah, I feel like it is becoming, I wouldn't say like more popular, but I feel like I've talked to some 3C people that, didn't really ever consider themselves to be 3C. They just called it type 1 just to make life easier, because it is like type 1 in a lot of ways, but it's not. It's not autoimmune. It's really its own type. So I feel like I don't want to toot my horn or say that I've inspired people to start posting about it, but I feel like the community is growing, and
thanks to you, people like you. I mean, you can't discount.
I hope so.
And we had talked to David a couple of weeks ago and talked about how he didn't see a lot of male representation in the type 1 community. And that's kind of sounds like similar to your story, is
for sure.
You put yourself out there, you're a little bit vulnerable, hoping that there's people that can relate to you, or maybe feel a little less like they wanted to talk about it, not hide themselves a little bit more. So that's good. We need that kind of representation.
Yeah.
So before I get into some questions that your audience really wanted to get into, I did have a question that just kind of popped up in my head right now. There must be like some psychological difference between being born with something like type 1 diabetes and being put in a position where you have to have a form of diabetes. Like, is that like something you ever grappled with, or how do you feel about that?
So I talk about this a lot, I guess, is that I am very thankful for my diabetes, because I had to choose, do I want to have pancreatitis and suffer, or do I want to have my surgery and be diabetic? It's kind of trading one issue for new issues. And it's something that, nobody wants to be diabetic, but the trade that I made, I'm very thankful for, because diabetes is 100% manageable. It sucks. It's a lot of work, but it doesn't, put me in the hospital with terrible pain spells. It doesn't, like, obviously my life is at risk in a different way, but
in less of a way, in a sense, which is why you're doctors and you decide to do that.
So I feel like when I was preparing for surgery, I was going to, like, nobody. Sorry, I knew that was.
It's okay.
She likes to put her ball underneath the couch and then ask me to get it.
So. That's adorable.
Can you come here, please? I'm so sorry.
Maybe we can all have our fur babies on screen at some point if mine decides to show up.
Yeah, mine's off in the backyard somewhere.
Yeah.
She'll make an appearance. So when I was preparing for my surgery, I was like, okay, in a couple days, in a couple weeks, I'm going to be diabetic. And, nobody else that has diabetes knows that it's going to happen. Usually it's a surprise to most people, but I had some time to prepare for it. And I could do a little bit of research, and, luckily not luckily, but my grandmother had type 2 diabetes that was insulin dependent. So, my mom had some knowledge on it, and just from being around her, I did know a little bit about it. But I guess mentally it is very different from type 1 in that I am glad that I have it in comparison to what I did have, and that I was able to mentally prepare for it a little bit.
Yeah. And it's funny because you do say, like, I'm so glad that I had an opportunity to prepare for it. And obviously people with type 1 don't get that, but I can see your story being really inspirational for people with type 1 because you highlight how manageable it can be. and how to set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And I sometimes when I see, I mean, obviously everyone has the right to complain about what they're going through, and, you know, people in relation to what some people have been through medical history wise.
Yeah.
Diabetes can be absolutely detrimental, because if that's the worst that your body has been through, I could see how it would be very difficult. But for me, my body has been through much worse. So when I'm dealing with something diabetes wise, I'm like, that'll be fine. You know, I'm going to get through it. I've survived a lot worse. So,
yeah.
That's kind of like where you talk about, you make the choice. If you didn't manage or try and like take the step in like taking control of your diabetes a little bit, then I'm sure it could be just as painful or detrimental, put you in the hospital, everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I work really hard to keep it, you know, steady and under control. And I'm kind of a micromanager, so I kind of try to, like, you know, tiny boluses and trying to keep my numbers in range. But I'm lucky that the technology is there to help me do that. So
yeah. And I'm sure it was quite a bit of a learning curve trying to figure out how to manage it, what to bolus, what you're eating is affecting. Because I mean, even type 1s go through that, but I'm sure you as well, even though you had time to prepare, you're not quite sure how your body is necessarily going to react.
You know, what was hard about it is with a pancreatectomy, a total pancreatectomy, they have to remove, in my case, they removed my pancreas, my spleen, my gallbladder, the lower portion of my stomach, and the duodenum, which is the first portion of the small intestine. So I had this major surgery. I was in the ICU for 10, 11 days, and then I'm thrown into diabetes. So whilst recovering from a digestive system surgery. So my body has to learn how to digest again, and how, you know, I need to learn what foods I can and cannot tolerate at the time while learning to be diabetic. Yeah. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take on.
You are a queen, first of all. That is the fact that you can, like, not only overcome this adversity, but like be a source of inspiration for others, that's really amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been enough time that I've kind of learned to, I don't know, put that part of my life in the past. And it's like, I've grown a lot from it. You know, this surgery is super, super major, and most surgeons will say it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to recover. And by recover, I mean, like, just establish a new normal. It's not ever going to be the same as it was. So I'm finally to a point that I feel like I'm getting into that normal. I feel like I'm, you know, I still deal with a lot of issues from that surgery, but I'm finally at a point that I'm like, okay, I think this is going to be what it is.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing to hear. And what wonderful timing to be able to connect with you at this time in your life, because all we can do now is just spread that mindset and positivity. And actually thinking about it, going into it, we have some questions that we have for you.
Let's do some questions.
We have multiple. I would love to get to all of them, but unfortunately we just don't have time.
And I talk nonstop. Like I could make this go for 3 hours. So
same. I think the three of us together could.
I'll try to keep it brief.
You're so cute. No, you're fine. That's what editing's for.
Yeah.
So one question I feel like we should definitely get to is what do you remind? So I guess you did kind of talk about this a little bit, but what do you remind or tell yourself on days that you have really bad burnout?
Luckily, I haven't experienced a huge burnout period. I mean, it's only been 4 years, so I know that that'll probably come in my lifetime. But if I'm ever just, you know, bad diabetes days happen to everybody. So if I'm ever experiencing a day that I just can't get it under control, I try to remind myself that, you know, usually the next day will be better, or, you know, in a couple days it's going to be better. It always, always, always gets. So if I'm ever having a bad day, I know that like it will get better, because if I look back right now as a good day right now, if I look back to a bad day that I've had recently, I'm like, okay, today's better. Like it always gets better.
Yeah.
So that's what I remind myself.
Yeah, especially since you know you have access to the tools and resources
For
you
sure.
need.
For sure.
So it's really easy when you're experiencing burnout to like have that all or nothing mentality. Like, I can't control this, so screw it. But
yeah.
And
yeah,
it's
I think
also
really
you have to
important.
like appreciate the small wins too. I feel like that's
Exactly.
also part of it. You can't like look at it, because I do the same thing. I'm a micromanager and I focus on details, but like if I get my dog brings me a toy because he's super excited, like I gotta focus on that and not what's putting me down for the day.
Yeah. So let's see. Are there any things you cannot do because you don't have a pancreas, or is it just modified?
I wouldn't say I don't think there's anything that I can't do, but there are certain foods that I need to be careful with.
Yeah.
So without a pancreas, your body, your body produces insulin. So a pancreas has the function of producing insulin, and it also has the function of producing digestive enzymes, and those break down your food. It breaks down the fats, the carbs, and the proteins in the food that you eat. So without a pancreas, you can't do either of those things. So I have to take my enzymes every time I eat anything. So, that can make it more challenging too, because if I'm treating a low, I have to make sure that I have my enzymes and, the food that I need. But it's just an extra thing. And it's just like, it's just like with insulin. It's something you have to do. And, there are times when I'm not perfect, where I either forget to take them, or forget them at home, or don't take enough, because they're capsules and you have to take, and it's not an exact science. It's not like, okay, you take one per amount of fat or whatever. It's kind of just figure out what your body needs and figure out how much you need for certain foods, and it takes a lot of time to figure that out. So I'm not perfect, so sometimes I mess it up, and if you mess it up, you face consequences in the restroom. And I won't go into any further detail than that, but it is painful, and it is like if you mess it up, you're probably spending at least 24 hours on the can.
Oh.
And it's when that happens, I'm like, okay, I live here now. I live in the bathroom. This is cool.
Oh.
Bring my phone in there, play Candy Crush, and I'm like, okay, this is where I live.
I was gonna say, your phone's your best friend. Maybe you need like a Nintendo Switch or something to play in there.
Yeah.
Talk about going with the flow. You're like, I'm accepting this.
Yep.
And it's not only insulin you have to manage. There's other things. It's kind of like you said, and I can see why a doctor says it takes that long to get a new normal, because there's no formula.
Yeah, there isn't. And I feel like sometimes people don't give their pancreas credit for what it does. Like they know that it produces insulin, but I think that sometimes people don't realize how much more it actually does. And I'm simplifying it down to insulin and enzymes, but it's very complicated, and you need to appreciate your organ. It still works. It's doing a lot for you. It's just missing one of its functions.
Yeah, it's like it might be faulty, but you got one. So
keep it. Do not wish it gone. Or people are like, oh, you might as well take it out. It doesn't work. Like, no, keep it forever.
Yeah. So that leads right into what the next question was, which was what's one of the biggest differences that I can imagine that the enzymes or the enzyme pills that you have to take is a big one. Is there anything else other than the fact that it means that you don't have one?
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest difference, is the having to take the enzymes with eating. And there's an issue with, so the enzymes, if you're not taking the correct dose, or if you're not doing it correct, you can face malabsorption of your nutrients, and you could get really sick because your body needs to absorb fats and carbs and proteins to, you know, to work properly. So if you're not absorbing the things out of your food that you need to, you know, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I know that you could face some serious issues if you don't do it right. So it's a lot of work. And I'm kind of downplaying it a little bit, but you get used to it. You know what I mean? It's like, just like with diabetes, with time, like obviously at first it's so overwhelming, and you're just thinking of the carb counting and the math and what's going to happen after you eat and checking your blood sugar every couple hours. But with time, you know, you get used to that, and it's the same with the enzymes. You just
it becomes part of
you got to learn how everything works for you. So there, you know, type 3C and type 1 are different, but they are similar in that they are both insulin dependent. So
gotcha. So, and then do you have any friends that you're able to like talk to regularly who also have 3C? And so do you find that there's differences between like sometimes maybe really big discrepancies between how much enzyme someone might have to take for a steak versus something else? Like, is that something I'm sure you guys can relate?
Yeah, everybody is different in the enzymes that they need. Some need more, some need less. I know some people that kind of are on and off with taking them. Like their body seems to, like, if I don't take them, I am in a very bad place. But some people are like, oh, sometimes I take them, sometimes I don't. So everybody's body is different. But I feel like the community that I found of people that have had this surgery, we can really relate to each other on a lot of things. Like I have a Discord group of people that have had the surgery, and we're constantly talking to each other like, hey, have you guys dealt with this? Have you dealt with this? And there's always someone that can respond and say like, yes, I have dealt with that, and this is how I manage, or, you know, maybe you should talk to your doctor about that. And it's really helpful to have that because and I think we maybe have 20 something people in that group. So it's small, but it's a close-knit, you know, it's a close-knit community. And
send me that link. We're going to have to put that in the description box down below.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody's watching and you've had a total pancreatectomy, we can get you into the group.
Yeah, it's amazing what technology can do to kind of help you feel like you're not so alone, especially with a place like Discord. Because it's a small, you make a community and you get to know those people really well. So that's amazing that you're using, it started as like a gaming platform and now you're using it for something different. That's pretty cool.
We started on Instagram when we had a group of people on Instagram, and Instagram actually has a limit of how many people you can have in a group. And I was like, I need a space where we can have a chat, like an intimate chat, not like a Facebook group. Like there are a lot of Facebook groups, but Facebook, I feel like it's just like make a post, people comment on it. Whereas Discord's more of like an
ongoing
chat.
conversation.
And you can have the different categories. Like there's a category where we talk about digestion. There's a category that we talk about diabetes. I'm so sorry.
You're totally fine.
I was going to say, we need to see that little pup.
Yeah, we need to.
There she
is.
Oh, this is Hannah.
Hannah.
Hannah, can you say hi and say you're sorry? Can you say sorry?
No need to apologize, Hannah. You're making it up.
Can you say you're sorry for being so barky? Yes, you are so barky. Anyway.
So sweet. Well, my headphones are telling me that they're dying. So before this cuts off too much, thank you so much. It is these episodes, I'm sure, Mary, for you as well, they're always an education. And at the end of each episode, it reaffirms in my mind, like, what a great idea this is to be able to connect with you guys on an individual level. So thank you. Good luck with your move. Do you happen to have a little drink next to you? It's okay if you don't. We can click the camera like we normally do. Yes.
All right. This is the only thing in my fridge. Always.
Oh, I love it.
Clink.
All right. Well, talk to you later. And thank you again.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed being on.
Of course. We'll have to do it again next time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.